Well, we remember that film Ghostbusters. What was it they always said? Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? Well, if you're in legal trouble and you live in Sonoma County of the North Bay, the person you call is our next guest, attorney Michael A. Fiumara. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much, and that's also Marin County, too.
Marin County, too, all the North Bay.
Thank you.
So now, you have a wide and very diverse practice, but what's your specialty?
Criminal defense, protecting the accused, and we do severe or serious personal injury cases throughout the area, and we represent as we had before, a child abuse case against a church, the Santa Rosa diocese, so that's one of our mainstays.
Well, it's interesting you jumped right into one of my questions because that's gotten a lot of publicity lately. Let's talk about that case, what you can talk about it, because I know it got a lot of attention, and I know that from what I read about, you know, the case and heard your comments and read your comments online, it seemed to really strike a personal chord with you.
It did. The church turned a blind eye to abuse and to violence against members of the parish who are most vulnerable. And we did something about it, and I know a lot of other attorneys have done the same. It sends a message.
And what is that message that you think it sends?
You have to wake up. If you see the symptoms or the writing on the wall, do something about it, act affirmatively. If you don't, you're going to be sued and you're going to pay a lot of money.
Right, right. Now, there's been a lot of attention lately about clergy sexual abuse cases. In your experience, is this just endemic to one religion, or is it, you know, I mean, the Catholic Church has gotten a lot of bad press lately, I mean, but it's happened in other denominations too, correct?
Maybe they're the most vocal and they're the most hypocritical on the surface. Maybe that's why they got the most attention, but I think every religion has its demons and its devils.
When did you first hear about this case? How did it come to your attention?
I'm very active in the Latino community. I speak Spanish. I also reach out specifically to the Latino community, unlike the lawyer referral service in our county, which I have a gripe with, but that's another issue. I reach out to the community. They reach out to me. They came to me, a whole family, then another family, and another family. There were 9 victims altogether.
Right. And you make a good point that unless you speak the language of your clients, it's hard to represent them, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
I imagine that these weren't families that had great, huge resources of financial capital. I mean, they must have come to you out of desperation or a real sense of injustice.
They did. In fact, when they said that they were going to hire a counsel, the local priest and some of the administrators told them that they would be getting food, scholarships for their kids. It was bribery. It didn't work.
And since that case came to conclusion, have you become kind of the person to call when there's an issue of sexual abuse on the part of clergy?
Many times people have called, but unfortunately the statute of limitations has been, it hasn't been shortened as we hope it will be by the legislature. There's a few things in the pipeline.
Right, and what is the statute of limitations now? If someone has been abused as a young person and they feel that they want to see justice done, how long do they have?
There's some controversy about that, and we won the summary judgment. It could be 24 to 29 years old, and so the sooner people come to us, the better. That would be a better way without reading the statute book again.
Right, but it's not so much about the time that's elapsed, it's about the age of the accused, or age of the victim.
It's the age of the victim, that's correct, and there's also the time lapse. The longer the time lapse, the more people forget, their memories fade.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about your career. How did you come to be an attorney in the North Bay, and when did you find yourself here in Northern California?
I moved from San Francisco. I was representing the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and some very controversial, colorful groups. I had to leave because I found a partner in the North Bay, and he said, either you leave Santa Rosa or forget me. I said, well, I'd rather move to Santa Rosa and start a relationship, and it's been a relationship for 23 years. So to make a long story short, I started in Santa Rosa, and boy, it was an eye-opener. No gay attorneys that were open or out. There's still no gay judges. That means someone has to run soon for that position.
Do you think there's no gay judges or just no openly gay judges?
I'm almost certain that there are no gay judges, period, but I have some suspicions about 1 or 2 that you at least not know about, but that can't be mentioned here. But in any event, I was shocked at how conservative the county was, and it started to change after I moved there. It became much more democratic, much more liberal, but still it has a long way to go.
So just 60 miles north of the bridge, it's a different world.
It is, but it's not so different. I mean, Santa Rosa has a population of about 170,000, and it's starting to really take off, and the downtown is vibrant, and there's some great restaurants and good food and good people, and I'm really happy living there, but I miss the city.
Right.
I was born in New York and lived in Philadelphia and went to school in Philadelphia.
Yeah. So when did you exit the East Coast for the West Coast?
I can tell you the exact date, July 13th, 1988. I took the plane and never turned back.
Right, right. And you know, a lot of people I know who have moved from the East Coast find San Francisco to be just too small. How about you?
It is small, but it's very quaint. It's very stylish. It captivates the mind, spirit, and I have a love for it. But I also love, you know, big cities like Madrid, where I lived, and New York.
Right. Now, I knew about your career here in San Francisco back in the late 80s, early 90s. Talk a little bit about some of those cases you handled for the sisters and some other things here. Because they also got a lot of attention. You've not been one to shy away from the limelight, let's say.
No, and nor will I ever shy away from it. Just like recently I had to tell the courts that they can't prohibit us from taking photos in front of the courthouse. But getting back to the sisters, they had a beef with the city and a permit process they had to overcome because they wanted to have a nice event in the Castro for Easter. And that became a big controversy because at
the
that
Hunky
time,
Jesus contest.
Yes, that's right. And a few other things. So that really caught a lot of attention and made people think about, you know, what their purpose is. And their purpose was to educate and to love and to be respectful, but at the same time, just talk the truth. And I like the truth and I like justice.
Right. And now that event has become something that the city doesn't shy away from, but it's actually become quite a big popular event and raises money for AIDS, HIV charities, and really does a lot of work that is very helpful. It's not just a political agenda, it's actually something that's become a social cause.
I agree, and I think that everything comes around, and sometimes something that's prohibited becomes accepted, admired, and part of our social fabric.
Now, the sisters I know also have a huge presence in the North Bay, in Guerneville, where my husband and I have a home. They do a lot of good work for AIDS, HIV causes. Have you found them to be, and other groups like that, LGBT groups, that have migrated from San Francisco north, have they become more and more accepted in Santa Rosa?
Oh my God, yes. In Guerneville, there are people that go to bingo. That's all they look forward to. Older, 80s,
Sisters bingo.
90s. I mean, these people they just love it and look forward to the antics, to the pie throwing in the face, to the directness, to the color. They just enjoy it so much that they're 89-year-old clients of mine that all they talk about is bingo and the sisters. So that's good, but on the other hand, the sisters contribute a lot of money to the social organizations in Guerneville. Guerneville happens to be the poorest community in Sonoma County.
And a lot of people don't realize that. They think of it as kind of a gay mecca, but there is a poverty pocket
Yes,
there.
there is.
What do you think has been the most important case you've handled since you moved to the North Bay?
I'll tell you, and most people will say, well, Michael, you didn't make any money on it. I don't care. It's what I did for a woman who moved to Sonoma County from, her husband did, and he was a black man who made a lot of money on the pipeline in Alaska. He moved there. All his neighbors were white. Their home was, after he died, the woman couldn't defend herself. She had polio, 3 children, grandchildren. They were going to close her house down because they said her water was polluted. Her septic tank was fouling. I was a city planner, a land use planner. My master's degree's in city planning from Penn. I knew what to do. I turned things around. I actually had a demonstration at that city hall. The mayor said to me, you know, we're voting for you, but you use the race card. You use he said, you use the system to win or the publicity to win. I said, whatever it takes, because this woman really has to live somewhere. You're going to put her out on the street. You're not going to do that on my watch.
Right. How popular are you now with the city government in Santa Rosa? I imagine sometimes they see you coming at the courthouse and aren't terribly happy about it.
That's too bad. I'm not there for them.
Yeah. That being your favorite case, what was a case that didn't go your way that you thought, that was a hard loss?
There was a case where I was trying to help a funeral director with a case, and it was real controversial because we're talking about rotting bodies of sorts. And there was an injunction just to shut it down. And this man was taking cases or people who couldn't afford all the high fees from the funeral industry. They're rip-off artists, worse than anything else, used car salesmen, insurance, et cetera. And they were trying to do the right thing, but it was controversial, and they got closed down. They moved out of Sonoma County, they moved out of San Francisco, and I lost touch with them. But they were trying to do good work, but of course, when people hear rotting corpses and, you know, and that, you know, their loved ones aren't treated properly or whatever, that was something that I took a case that was very difficult. But I don't shy away from difficult cases.
Right, right. No, I mean, I see the caseload and I read about you on the internet. It's something that seems to excite you. You like taking on a case that is the, you know, David versus Goliath.
Yes.
In our last few moments, talk to me about some of the differences for an LGBT member of the community, whether they're married, single. living in Sonoma versus San Francisco or a larger metropolitan area? You say it's gotten better. When you were there, you were the first openly gay lawyer. I mean, for someone who moves there as a gay couple, are they going to be welcomed? Is it now all-encompassing and all-embracing?
I'm surprisingly pleased that Sonoma County is very welcoming and very, very open, and neighbors will be as nice, if not nicer, because they know the house is going to be taken care of very well. The lawn, the statues, the lights, the whole 9 yards. They're going to feel like they have a neighbor who's going to add value. And I see that there's just pockets of ignorance, but it's everywhere. It could be here in San Francisco, for all we know.
Right, so you'll take on those pockets of ignorance.
Of course.
We've been speaking with attorney Michael Fiumara. Next up, our conversation with filmmaker Paul Festa, and we'll find out how a Tchaikovsky concerto got turned into an extraordinary new film. We'll be right back. Thanks.